And we got a baseball, and that baseball was kind of magical.
Was it?
Yeah. I happened to see in person 2 of those no-hitters, including the perfect game. And that's the record breaker. And I'm the catcher for the record breaker. I'm the kid, the little skinny kid who sat in the seats in Dodger Stadium.
Yeah,
I caught the record-breaking 5th no-hitter that Nolan Ryan threw.
Hello, I am Maelia Davis, and I'm here at 713 Live with the amazing Alan Ashby. I am so thrilled, and really, it's such a it really is such a great honor, and I'm so excited that you're here and that you are brave and coming on my podcast, not knowing what to expect. So
not so brave, and you're being really silly right now, but it's great to be with you. Thanks.
It's great. So, Alan, I have lots of questions. I've known Alan for a while, and there's so many questions that I've actually never asked you. And as I was researching things for our podcast, so many things kind of came up that I didn't know. And we have Alan's beautiful wife, Catherine, here, so you might hear her piping in the background.
She's the one that should be sitting here.
So, Alan, you are a California native, right? You were born in, was it San Pedro?
San Pedro, California. We pronounce it wrong. It's, obviously it's
San
supposed
Pedro.
to be San Pedro, but no, if you, that's how you can always tell if somebody's from Pedro or not. They'll try to say it the right way, and you go, well, you're not from
You're
it.
not.
But it's Pedro.
San Pedro.
And kind of a harbor town of, you always hear about Long Beach as the LA harbor. San Pedro is the other side. And my friends and everybody, they were fishermen and dock workers and that sort of thing. So yeah, that was my beginnings, very humble.
Yeah, so I have a question that I don't know if anybody, so as a little kid, you're little Alan and you're 5, 6 years old and you're playing Little League or whatever. Did you start like little kids these days that you do Little League and then you go to club and you do all that stuff, or did that stuff not exist when you were growing up?
Well, they had Little League. It wasn't the official Little League that goes to Williamsport, but it was a different organization. But that didn't start until the age of 9. And it was about that age that I actually started playing some ball, basketball and baseball primarily. And I had friends that we would play out in the street and drive the neighbors crazy and all that kind of stuff all the time. But
did you break windows?
I never broke a window, I don't think. I don't think I did. It was a failed childhood, I think. But anyway, I started playing ball. I have no idea why. My dad was, I had 2 older brothers and no sisters, and they did scouting and all that sort of thing, and that wasn't for me. And I just decided I wanted to try to play some ball. I have no recollection as to why. Started playing Little League and the bitty basketball and all that sort of thing, and I had some natural ability. It was about the only thing I could say. Now, based on later years, I'm not sure people would have agreed with that statement. But that was really the beginning of everything, and I found that I loved it, and I spent all my time at home outside with a transistor radio, which nobody anymore knows what it is, but listening to Dodger games or Laker games and doing the season of the sport of the season.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I passed my time.
And so do you remember like holding a baseball and thinking, I want to play pro. I really would love to, like little kids dream of being a fireman and they dream of being an astronaut. Did you dream of being like a pro baseball player?
Yeah, that's such a really insightful question. I don't know if it comes from the same place that it makes me go. But I went to a baseball game with my dad. It was out at Old Wrigley Field in LA.
Yeah.
And it was the Angels, or anyway.
No, they were called the Duck? No.
Well, it was the minor league team, the AAA Angels, I think, at the time. And we got a baseball, and that baseball
tell me.
was kind of magical.
Was it?
Yeah. And I'm really sorry. That's very
okay.
silly, but the memories. Yeah. But it was just magical for me, and it didn't lead me to a whole bunch of. I remember saying of the Dodgers bat boys that I'd do that for free. I'd shine their shoes and do all that stuff for free. Just give me a chance. Of course, I had nobody to speak to in that regard. Didn't know that actually there were some members of the Dodgers that actually lived in the San Pedro area.
Really?
Yeah, I found out later. But that and basketball and the names of Sandy Koufax and actually Tommy Davis was my biggest hero. Jerry West on the basketball side and Elgin Baylor and Wilt Chamberlain came. But those were the names that became magical for me. And that's what I did. I was just a sports geek.
You were listening to the games
I was on radio back then. We didn't have any TV and ESPN didn't exist. And so, that transistor radio was kind of my lifeline. Yeah. And I would go to Dodger games whenever possible and Laker games. And it all kind of messed me up from that point.
Did you keep that baseball?
I did for a long time. I couldn't tell you now where it is, but it kind of got better and better with age. I have some old baseballs that have kind of done that too, but the oil comes out in the leather, and they get even more mystical for me. Yeah. But I can put them in my wife's hand, and it's like, get that out of here. But, for me, it's kind of magic. But
so I read that you were actually a lefty. And you taught yourself to switch hit?
Well, I was really right-handed.
Oh, right-handed.
I hate to mess up your story.
Sorry.
But left-handed was kind of became the way, and probably if you read something, that's the way I batted generally all the time. But I was a switch hitter, and there was logic to that for me because the Dodgers had a team that of course, there's 9 hitters in any given lineup. There were probably 7 switch hitters at a given time, 6 or 7. So I thought, well, that's the way you do it. I'm going to be a switch hitter. And didn't realize that required at least twice the work that went in the other way.
Yeah, it's quite a talent.
If I were to do it all over again, and sometimes when I talk to kids, I think, well, find one side that you like and apply everything you've got to that, and you probably have a greater outcome when it's all said and done. So that's my advice of the day. I don't think that's going to apply to you.
That's actually great advice. It brings up a really good point. There's probably so many parents that have little kids. I know of actually a friend of mine that the moment their son was born, like literally in the crib, he would put a baseball in his hand since he was a tiny little hand, so that he could feel the baseball from the moment because he wanted him to be a baseball player. So I've got to believe there's a bunch of parents out there listening, like, taking advice, because when your kid loves a sport, truly loves the sport, it's not about anything else, and like you just loved it. I think that parents want to try and help them in whatever way they can. Right?
I think that's great. That was not that did not apply to my life. I had 2 older brothers, as I think I mentioned, and no sisters, and I was supposed to be a girl, so I had all the pink clothing, and that was what was put in with me.
I don't believe that.
No, that's true. That is true.
Okay, so is it true that you would practice against your garage?
I did. Well, the garage door didn't survive real well. But tennis balls, you could throw tennis balls and it would eventually kind of give in. But there was a wall across the street, a stone wall.
Oh, okay.
And the house was a very big house. Ours was on the lower side of the hill. If you know San Pedro at all, it's really a huge hill that sets everybody either down toward the harbor or up on the hill. And anyway, I would throw on against that brick wall, that stone wall across the street, and neighbors beware is basically what the story was.
That noise of
No, I didn't hit many balls. Now on the garage side, I put up a basket, or my dad put up a basket for me, and the ball was always bouncing out there and going. But on the baseball side, it was that stone wall, and really, that shouldn't have bothered too many people because I had pretty good command at the time.
I bet you did. So really interesting. You went straight from high school. You went to the pros, right?
Gone from pink clothing in the crib to high school, and I did, and that wasn't that rare at the time.
Okay.
So when a major league team, and I was drafted by the Cleveland Indians, that was the next best to major league team that I could. So anyway, when I was drafted as really an 18-year-old, but I was still 17 at the time, that's what the major league teams wanted. They wanted those 4 years that you would spend in college and play 30, 40 games in college ball. They wanted to take you and develop you over 154 games in the minor leagues, or 144, I think is what we played. So if you spent 2, 3, 4 years in the minor leagues and played all those games, they felt they had a better product in the end run. But I think what proved to be wrong about it, because today I don't think they draft nearly as many high school players like they did back then. They draft college players because the programs have become basically minor league baseball. They're really attuned to getting these players, like in basketball and football, it's hockey. They get these players pretty ready for close to the major leagues. When I came out, anything but. It was just, they were looking for raw talent and hope that you developed. And in some case, well, here's an idea. When I hit the minor league scene with rookie ball in Florida in 1969, we had maybe 40 players, 35, 40 players on that rookie ball team. And of course, there are other levels of baseball that go on up to the major leagues. But on that rookie ball team, there were 2 of us that wound up making it out of the 40, making it to the major leagues. And so, it tells you the odds are pretty slim. So you really have to be fortunate along the way.
And talented and disciplined. And it's a lot of work.
You get a lot of argument on that one, but yeah.
So tell me, is it like, were you sitting in your living room and the wall
Very
phone,
seldom.
Right. The phone rang and they called your parents? How did you find out that
I've
they
actually
wanted you?
kind of played that through my head at times. I think it hit the newspaper.
That's how you found out?
We read newspapers back in those days. The internet was not functioning real well at that time. But yeah, I think it was in the newspaper. And me and one of my teammates in high school were drafted. And pardon the poor English grammar right there. But he first baseman, big Greek god kind of guy, was drafted by Baltimore, and I was drafted by Cleveland. And we went our ways. And
Did he make it?
He did not.
And so one day you're living in San Pedro in your parents' house, and then all of a sudden you're like on a bus to Cleveland?
17 years of age, and I got on a plane the day following graduation at high school, and got on a plane and headed to Sarasota, Florida, and embarked upon this whole thing. I still have some friends that we get together. Yeah, they try to get it together about every year or two, but it doesn't happen quite that often. But we get together, and I sit there and listen while they reminisce about all the old baseball names and everything that went along with it. And Sarasota was the beginning of that whole trek. And there was also something called Vietnam going on at the time. And so I had to enlist at the end of that year in what turned out to be the Air Force. I tried to get in any branch I could get in as a reservist, and that went on for the next 6 years. And that's a real challenge when you're trying to develop that kind of a career. But that's the way things began, and eventually Cleveland happened, 1973.
And so Cleveland?
It's a little disjointed. It's not what people would think. And when you do get into the minor leagues, it was big money back then, because if we went on a road trip, we got $1 handed to us.
$1?
Yeah, so that if we happened to stop, and it never would happen at a McDonald's at the time, you could buy a half of a burger or something. But we got $1, and I think our pay was $500 a month.
Wow.
And if you had a good year, you tried to negotiate a $50 to a $100 raise for the next year. And you were only, and when I say a month, I'm talking about during that 4.5-month minor league season.
Wow.
So,
but you're living this dream, right? I mean, of playing baseball, what you love. Did it feel like that at the time, or was it just a grind?
It didn't feel like the dream I had dreamt up watching Major League Baseball as a kid. But you know what? It feels like baseball is set up to fail so much. In basketball, you might shoot 50% and feel like I can do better or whatever, 40%. But in baseball, the very best hit 300, which means you fail 70% of the time. And I super exceeded in that regard because I learned to fail at a higher rate than that. But I'm talking about as a hitter. And so, yeah, it's a real challenge. And it's amazing whatever you get into in life. I'm sure it's the same, but you dwell and you dwell and you dwell on all the failures and how you're going to solve that and get better. And that's what kind of started at that time. So it didn't feel like the dream you're depicting, but there was a goal.
Yeah.
There was a goal, and the major leagues was at the end of the goal.
So how did a coach say, "Hey, Alan, you're going to be a catcher," or did you just say, I want to be a catcher. I want to lead this whole thing? Because a lot of people don't know,
you're
right?
Good.
You're the brain,
you're
right?
Good.
You're the brain.
No, well.
Well, a catcher, right? I mean, I told you earlier, I watched Bull Durham.
You listen to too many stories. You know that?
I watched Kevin Costner in Bull Durham.
Yeah, he was good.
He was good. So the catcher really, kind of directs, tells obviously the pitcher has to have the arm and the speed and all that stuff, but you're telling it.
It was much more that way back then, and it's really changed to where the people in the dugout run things. I don't know if you ever see what's going on. They've got some kind of hearing things going on where the pitches are called. I have one example of a manager of mine in the major leagues, and I won't say his name, but it was a guy that I kind of had struggles with. He decided that he didn't like the way I was calling games, and he decided to call the game, and he got one inning and gave up 7 or 8 runs in that inning, and he told me it was mine after that.
Oh, thank you.
And I was like, yeah, you did a great job. But
So how'd you decide to be a catcher?
I was in high school, and I was a shortstop and pitcher all the way through, shortstop pitcher. And I thought, eventually maybe I'd be a shortstop. I didn't see myself as a pitcher, but I didn't have the gift of speed. So I started trying to analyze, and I had another friend that I grew up with playing Little League ball who became a catcher, and he had a great arm. And he also ran well, but he became a catcher and made it. He got drafted a half year before me. And I saw this and I thought, there's something here, because I had a pretty good arm. And I thought, well, maybe I could be a catcher. And at the time, Johnny Bench was hitting the major league scene with the Cincinnati Reds. And I thought, that's the way, that's the path. And I got on it, and there would have been no other path for me, as it turned out. That was my only way, and it got me there.
It did. So I read that, and I may have these facts wrong, but that the record for no-hitters is 4, right?
It is.
Is that true? And you had...
For a catcher,
For a catcher.
Yeah.
Right? And you had 3. Right? 3 no-hitters?
So I mentioned Sandy Koufax as one of my heroes. He was a Dodgers left-handed pitcher, and he's a Hall of Famer, and he's one of the greats. If you ask me, he's the greatest of all time. But short-ish career, but he was so tremendous, and he threw 4 no-hitters, and he was the leader of all time in no-hitters, and he had a perfect game in there. And I happened to see in person 2 of those no-hitters, including the perfect game at Dodger Stadium. So, I mean, it was just, it was built up big, and it was really great stuff. And when I got to the major leagues, jumping well ahead, but I got a chance to catch Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
And Nolan Ryan came to the Astros with 3 no-hitters that he had thrown with the Angels out in Anaheim. And he got with us, and 1981, I believe it was, he takes the hill against the Dodgers, and we're late in the season, and it's time to clinch our division or continue this battle with the Dodgers in the West, and there's only just a handful of games left in the season. He throws a no-hitter against the Dodgers that day that I'm catching.
Oh, my God.
And he ties Sandy Koufax. I want to make sure I've got this right. No, he had 4 already, no-hitters. This becomes his 5th. And that's the record breaker. And I'm the catcher for the record breaker. I'm the kid, the little skinny kid who sat in the seats in Dodger Stadium and idolized Sandy Koufax. I'm going to do it again. Sandy Koufax, and saw those no-hitters, and it was so meaningful.
Yeah,
I caught the record-breaking 5th no-hitter that Nolan Ryan threw. And as it turned out, it was my second. I had caught one in the first year that I was with the Astros, 1979, for Ken Forsch. So that was the first of my 3, and the final one was with my great friend Mike Scott some years later. I had 2 others that got into the 9th inning, one with Nolan and one with Mike. One out with Nolan, and he shook me off. He should not have done that. And he gave up a base hit to Mike Schmidt, great third baseman for the Phillies. And then 2 outs in the 9th inning. And I've got a chance with one more no-hitter to be the all-time catcher.
Oh, my gosh.
No-hitters.
Yeah.
And because at that time, there was nobody with 4. And a little dinker looper into right field for a base hit by a pinch hitter ended that one with 2 outs in the 9th inning. So I never got that 4th no-hitter. And so I think it was bigger for me than it was for the pitchers at that time on the mound, I say to myself. But I wound up with 3, and I got bypassed by a couple of guys, I believe, that have 4 no-hitters, but kind of cool.
I think it's amazing when I hear someone that had such a long career that you can remember those moments.
Anything.
Yeah, we remember everything. But that it was so-and-so, and it was the bottom of the, you remember these moments.
Well, I actually remember the names that went on with that stuff. But with all the foul tips that went on and onto the catcher's mask, I'll go back to the anything comment. It's amazing.
Throughout the whole thing, what is the most amazing moment of your career that you remembered? This is gold. This is...
Well, the Nolan Ryan 5th no-hitter was a big one. But I also, with the Astros during those years, 79 to 89, the years that I played there, we got into the postseason a few times. And in 1981, I hit a home run against my hero Dodgers in Houston to take the series to 2-0. At that time, it was a best of 3. No, that was the first game. Sorry. And I hit a home run in the 9th or 10th inning, a walk-off to win the game.
Wow.
And got interviewed by Bryant Gumbel and, some things that kind of hit your head. Meeting Howard Cosell with interviews other times and just kind of laughing through things. But that home run was a really big one, a walk-off dinger in front of 50,000 in the Astrodome, and having them cheer your name. And I was more accustomed to them chanting my name in other ways, but that was fun. And then 1986 into the postseason against the Mets, and they hit a home run in New York. To help beat the Mets in that game. Those are big moments. Those are the kind of thing as a kid. Anybody attached to that event, that feat would be mythical for me, and
you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Do you remember when the Astros contacted you and said, "Come on over"?
I do. I played parts of 4 years in Cleveland with the Indians, and there was a lot of time on the bench, and those are challenging times because you start to wonder, can I still do this? I'm not sure I can do it. A lot of doubts creep in. I got traded, the very first trade ever, by the brand new Toronto Blue Jays following the 76 season. So 77 was the first year the Blue Jays were a major league team, and I was the first trade ever acquired by the Toronto Blue Jays. Kind of noteworthy. Yeah. But I was in Southern California, living in Mission Viejo at the time.
Nice.
And we had come back to the house, and I got a phone call. And it was from this reporter in Toronto who I would come to know years later. But he says, "Would like to get a comment from you about being traded to the Blue Jays." I hadn't paid any attention to the fact that there was expansion going on, and I didn't know the names of the new teams. And I heard that I had been traded from a major league team, debatable, the Cleveland Indians, to the Blue Jays. And before I could make a comment, what ran through my head was, the Brownies, like the Girl Scout Brownies or the Blue Jays. And so that's what happened to me. And so I went from my friends that I had grown up with in pro ball into away from Cleveland, now to the Blue Jays. And I tried to make the most positive comments. Oh, yeah, this is great,
It's wonderful.
I'm so excited. And I had to sit down and I couldn't search the internet or anything to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really, what is this?
Yeah. So they didn't.
And I cried.
Like,
I sat on the edge of the bed where I had taken the phone call and I cried. And after 15 minutes talking with me, you can't imagine me crying. But
So you have to move to Toronto and.
in those days, with the kind of money that $12,000 was the major league minimum when I made it to the major leagues, and I didn't get a raise for a few years, and so you're not making much money, and you're not staying, generally speaking, in a city like Cleveland. The final game of the year, game 162 would happen, and you'd immediately pack up and go back home. And home at that time was Mission Viejo, Southern California. And so anyway, we headed up to Toronto for a couple of years and took part in that. And a lot of losses happen when you're a brand new expansion team. In today's world, I think they'd probably load the team up with more quality players. But that happened. And then after 2 years of that, I became a trade bait to the Houston Astros.
Trade bait.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a nice term. So what happened? You get a call? Did you talk? Like, how did that?
I got a. Let's see. How did the Astros one happen? I didn't even hear from the Toronto Blue Jays.
Oh God! You find out about everything in the paper or some reporter. It's not like in the movies where like you sit there and the.
Kevin Costner did not come and inform me that I had been traded. No. Actually, I could be twisted on that one. It could have been Tal Smith that I got a call from, general manager of the Astros at the time. I also got a call, which I thought was so classy, from Enos Cabell, who was one of the players with Houston at that time. It was 1970. It was 1970, the beginning of the 9 year. It actually happened late 78. And I got a call from Enos welcoming me to the Houston Astros, and I thought, wow. I never imagined, and he was actually a Southern California kid who had grown up in Gardena, and I had played some high school ball against. But I got that call, and that was like a tremendous welcoming committed to the Astros, and it turned out to be a great number of years.
So you had already played in the Astrodome at that point, or no?
No.
No,
but I had seen it. I had driven from spring training in Tucson, Arizona, to Jacksonville, where I was stationed for a part of a minor league season. Drove through Houston, and me and the guy that I was traveling with, we snuck in about the seventh inning into the Astrodome and watched an inning of ball and thought, Major Leagues.
Yeah.
Major Leagues.
This is a great stadium. Yeah. What's your favorite stadium across the country?
Dodger Stadium has great appeal to me, and they've maintained it so well. There's some of the older stadiums like Kansas City Kauffman Stadium, I don't know if it's still called Kauffman Stadium, is just gorgeous, just beautiful. But among the new stadiums, I love what Houston is.
Minute Maid.
It's been Enron and Minute Maid, and now it's Daikin.
I still call it Minute Maid.
Yeah.
I remember I got to go to opening day at Dodger Stadium every year because of my old days. My client, I had the Dodger account back in my old Univision days, and the guy who ran the advertising for Dodger Stadium, Sergio Del Prado, if you're watching, I love you. And he
Say that name again. I love that Spanish accent.
Sergio Del Prado.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Cuban guy, and so of course, Cuban girl, and he would get me tickets every year.
That's
opening
great.
day, and there's nothing like opening day at Dodger Stadium, the flyover, it is.
I think the gentleman that I'm thinking of, he was a scout or something, but he always was. They'd have him on TV a lot at Dodger Stadium, but I think he was a Cuban gentleman who would shoot the radar gun at the pitcher's speeds all the time. Anyway, I can't remember the guy's name now, but he was pretty prominent.
So what was it like your first day you step in to the Astrodome, which was like, back then, it was, now in Houston, obviously it's very different, but you step on the field for the first time.
I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
I really did, and I remember being with my manager out during early batting practice, somewhere in the first couple of weeks there with the team, and I just said, this is so cool. And I don't know if he still had that glow happening with him about the whole deal. Dome stadiums had a way of Montreal and Seattle, and those were the ones that come to mind along with Houston. It sounded artificial inside sometimes. You didn't have the same sense about everything, but it was really the Astrodome I loved. The only thing about it was, and visiting players, some of the great power hitters just hated it because it was such big dimensions. And you could just hammer drives that would be home runs in other ballparks, and they would be hauled in at the warning track by somebody, and I remember Mike Schmidt being one of the names that he'd crush 3 balls in a game and come back just not pleased as he was crossing the field heading toward the dugout. And that was the sentiment. And so he kind of learned to play a different style of baseball in the Astrodome.
And so I just have to ask this question as a girl. So when you go up to the mound and the pitcher's been having a tough day, and I have watched baseball movies, when you're talking and you're covering your mouth with your mitt, do you really talk about somebody needs a chicken and there's we need to get a gift for somebody's wedding shower? What do you say when you go up?
Usually, if the pitcher's really struggling, it was that wouldn't have been well received. But there have been times when it was known to talk about something unusual just to lighten the mood, or whatever. But the first thing that came to my mind as you say that about going to the mound was trying to go out there with Nolan Ryan, who wasn't open to the suggestion of somebody coming out and telling him what maybe he should do. And so there were a couple of times where I've thought in retrospect, if that were to happen again today, I might have had a different approach before my departure from the Hill.
So when you're sitting there and you're focused on the game and you're thinking about the player that's walking up, it's about to bat, and the pitcher, do you hear the fans? Do you hear the noise? Do you hear, or are you just
sometimes
so laser focused on?
No, you hear. If somebody has some choice words for you individually, you'll hear it. As a collective crowd, 30,000 cheers sound good. One negative voice sounds really, really harsh, and so there are times when that can be a little bit rough, but. Most of the time when I would go to the mound, it wasn't because I felt like I had some brilliant thing to give to my pitcher, but oftentimes the manager wants you out there so that the guy in the bullpen has an extra 30 seconds to warm up and get ready because he's going to bring him in. So really the hint to the pitcher oftentimes is, I'm getting ready to get yanked right now. So, it's not a happy occasion. That's kind of what happens
I
there.
guess you're not talking about...
there are moments where pregame we would go through every hitter on the other team and what we had in our minds. And so there were times when you've got so-and-so, Steve Garvey's coming to the plate with a couple of guys in scoring position, and you have this thought about just remember what we said about the way he approaches this kind of an at-bat. And so you always had that kind of thing going too.
You went from, an amazing Astros. I mean, in Houston, everybody knows you, recognizes you, loves you. You went to broadcast. So how did that come about? You went to being the voice of the Astros, and how did that?
Honestly, at times I wonder how any of it ever came about. But I wound up seeing there was an opening at Channel 39 News for a sports director, sports broadcaster. And I thought, I had a friend who had gone into that kind of field, and I thought, well, I can do that too. I had no clue, and I had no education in that direction. And I thought, I'll give it a chance. And I have to tell you, it opened some doors for me, but they all weren't pointing in that same direction. I was awful. And I was awful. And I think back, and it's painful sometimes to think, I'll see somebody on the air, and I have a way, my wife hears me all the time, I'll say, this person is so good. This person is so good. And then I'll see somebody else, and and I'll think of, and then I'll reflect on myself and go, And so, that's That's very truthful. So that happened. I did a couple of years of that, and I went back onto the field and I did some minor league managing of baseball, and then wound up getting a shot to be the Astros bullpen coach one year. So I went through that year and I enjoyed it. I had a good time. Money was tight, boy, at that time, and I got wind of a spot opening in the broadcast booth, and I said, "Hey, here's my hat, and I'm going to throw it." So anyway, that spot was given to me, and as things began, I have a lot of the kind of cringeworthy moments kind of stuff, but it got better, and I worked at it, and thanks to Jamie Hildreth, who was the director of broadcasting at the time, and Milo Hamilton, who was my partner on the radio in those early years with the Astros as a broadcaster, I was able to grow, and a lot of things transpired that really helped me in that direction. And I wound up doing a couple of innings of play-by-play in every game, and that was so helpful. I can't begin to tell you. It teaches you not only what's going out on the air, but how you have to prepare to be able to say those things coherently. And so there was a lot of preparation and learning and all that sort of thing. And it came that directions changed, and I went up to Toronto for 6 more years on the broadcast side, and I got a chance to do some TV. Well, I was doing radio, but I got a chance to do some TV when people would be out. And all of a sudden, it raised some eyebrows for some folks, and it really opened a door to coming back to Houston and doing TV back here. And I did play-by-play on the road, and I did color at home, and that was nobody else was doing that.
Yeah,
and so yeah,
I am amazed by the folks that can do play-by-play and do the commentary, because I mean nowadays I'm sure they're getting fed all sorts of data.
A lot of stuff happens, yeah.
But you knew back then you had to own it. Like you had to know the players, the history. You had to own a lot of that data. That's thoughtful of you. And really the analyst side of things happens because I was a player. Yeah. So I can't really take a lot of credit there. But you know, it lends it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it does. It does. But you still have to be able to somehow get it out. But I'll tell you what I did. Major League Broadcasting, and I don't know what goes on in today's world. I assume it's not quite like Milo Hamilton, Harry Carey, and those names of the past. They wrote everything, and I mean they just spent so much time writing all this stuff, and they would have pages and pages of stuff written for every game they would do. And I started learning that maybe I didn't need to do that. I pulled out that computer and I started pulling things up, and I learned ways to split that computer for me. I would have one page be the Astros, for example, and in that page I would have tabs pulled up for pitchers, starting pitchers, relief pitchers, infielders and outfielders, and I could quickly just access everybody that I wanted to hit. And so I thought, well, pardon me, I didn't learn how to keep my hands down, but then and on the other side, I would have the other page be the other team and all that same information, so I could just kind of quickly hit it and access. And I kind of viewed it as trying to work maybe a little smarter, easier, and easier was always good with me. And so, that happened, and as much as I loved my playing days, and they were the best, I had a lot of times where I thought, man, I could have done better than that. I just, we regret so much in life, and I have a lot of regrets, a lot of challenges that came my way that I maybe wasn't prepared for. But on the broadcast side, once I kind of got it a little bit, I felt like I had actually kind of earned something, and it meant a lot to me. Yeah, so I watched you last 2 years ago when they inducted you into, that was an amazing day. She was one of my great fans. I'm a huge fan. Waving silly photos and stuff. We were waving paddles and yelling for you. What did that feel like? Like finally, right, like this recognition, you've had this career, this amazing moment at the stadium with all the fans. I was surprised and I was overwhelmed. I had my kids in as well, and my very supportive, wonderful wife, and yeah, it was really great. But I was surprised because of the limited number of years I had actually done that job for the Astros, and yeah, I relished that a great deal.
It was a great moment. I loved watching, and the video that they played in the jumbotron or the
Over and over.
I've known some of your accomplishments, but as I was watching it all, you just couldn't help but go, wow, this is an amazing career that you've had.
Yeah, I never would have dreamed, as that going back to being that kid growing up, I found something that I really liked in sports, and in particular baseball, and basketball as well. But in baseball, it worked out for me. I never, ever, Mahalia, would have dreamed that any of that would come about. And I feel kind of like I've been gifted, led through the whole thing. I don't really know how to say it otherwise, because it's way beyond anything I dreamed of. So
that's
really fun.
I know that you are a huge fan of Houston.
Yes.
And a huge proponent of Houston. So I want to ask you, back when you got traded to the Astros, and your first thought, I'm moving to Houston. What did you think of Houston back then?
I thought it was going to be, as I flew into Houston to come try to find a home, I thought of cowboy hats, boots, dusty roads, and no trees. And I flew in and headed to Intercontinental, and there were pine trees and trees everywhere. And that don't even exist anymore, probably, but they were everywhere. And I was looking out the window, and I thought, this is not what I thought. And that's what kind of has happened with Houston for me. It's not what I thought. Not that any of that other stuff is a negative in any way, but it's just not what I thought. It's a metropolitan city that has given me everything, and so grateful that I got traded here and not somewhere else.
What do you think is, there's so many people moving here every day. What do you think is the most surprising thing about Houston? That, obviously back when, when you were moving here, but today, what do you think is the most surprising thing about Houston?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty convinced I'm one of the least capable persons of answering that. The restaurants are great. The people are great. I think that suburbs in Houston, that kind of casts an aspersion on downtown. That's not what I'm attempting to do, but the suburbs are just so great, and the people are so wonderful. And so my family have enjoyed that very much. And just an example, I sold a house with my wife about, 5-6 years ago, and we ran into a real estate agent by the name of Mahalia Davis. And I didn't know who you were, but folks, if you happen to make that same move that I did and my wife did, get ready to make a friend.
Oh, well, I have a great story about Alan, actually. I got introduced to you by a neighbor.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, I was an LA girl. I moved here, and, I was a Dodger fan for,
It's hard to get out of you too. That blue blood is hard.
It's hard, but I have.
Yeah.
I'm a big Astros fan now. But I went to your house. I walked the house. I don't know if you remember this day. I remember it so clearly. And you walk the house, and everybody here in Texas, because we have huge homes, right, compared to New York or LA.
Oh yeah.
Everybody has a game room, and so I went upstairs, and in your game room there was a bunch of Astros memorabilia, but here in Houston especially, almost everyone has Astros or Texans or Cowboys. Some people are Cowboy fans. Stuff in their game rooms, and I know. So I didn't notice that it was the same guy in all the pictures. I just was, thinking as a realtor. So we moved forward and all of that, and I was talking to you in your office while my stager, who's fantastic, Bonnie Glover, she's amazing, knocks on your door. It's a glass door.
I remember.
She knocks on the door and does this to me, like, get over here. And so I was like, excuse me, Alan, I'll be right back. And so I go outside, and Bonnie literally like grabs my arm and says, come here. And I said, what's wrong? And she says, get up here. She takes me upstairs. Do you see who this is? And I was like, and then I saw the blue eyes. Now, you had an amazing mustache.
Yes, it was special.
It was special, that's for sure. And she's like, that's Alan Ashby. Like, do you realize? And I was like, oh my God, I was horrified. I'm probably blushing now. I was horrified.
You should be, but you're not.
So I go back downstairs, and of course, by now, Alan realizes that I now know who he is. And so I walk in, and I'm just so embarrassed. And he looks up at me and he goes, do you remember this?
I do remember.
He goes, And I said, yes, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. He goes, I'm Catherine Ashby's husband. And that's who you are.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. And I'll never forget that day. And obviously married to Catherine Ashby, who is an incredible woman, but you're just so humble, and you've had such an incredible career. And I really am so thankful that you've taken the time to be here today and share some of these great moments that I don't think we get to hear. We see as fans, or as, what the press decides to cover, but you're just a great individual and part of why Houston's so great.
You are so sweet. I told you I was reluctant to do this because I truly feel very unworthy of anything like this. But thank you. And thank you for being a friend to me, but more importantly to my wife. You're just best friend material. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love her. I love both of you guys, and I'm just so glad. I think that there's always a reason that we all end up meeting each other in this city, and I think it's been a wonderful, wonderful road, and I know we're gonna get to spend a lot more time together. And I just thank you for being here. Thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe and check out 713 Live.
Please do it.